The global economy is expected to grow by 3% annually over the next half-century. But growth will be much stronger and much faster in emerging economies than in the developed countries of the OECD. The United States is the world's biggest economy today, representing 23% of global economic activity. GDP will shrink to 18% by 2030 and just 17% in 2060. China, which produces about 17% of global GDP today, is expected to pass the US to become the world's biggest economy. It will produce 28% of global GDP in 2030 and should stay at that level through 2060. China's growth, and that of other fast-developing emerging countries, will be driven by a better educated and more productive workforce. India will also benefit from population growth. It will jump from 7% of global GDP today to 11% in 2030 and 18% in 2060. Population aging, on the other hand, will drag down growth in many countries and regions. The euro area is the world's second leading economy, with 17% of global GDP. As the number of active Europeans declines, Europe's share of the world economy will drop to 12% by 2030 and just 9% by 2060. Japan, which accounts for 7% of global GDP today, faces a similar crisis. Its aging population will push its share of global GDP down to 4% by 2030 and just 3% by 2060. Today, the 34-country OECD represents 65% of global GDP. This will drop to just 43% in 2060, smaller than China and India, and well below the combined GDP of emerging economies. Incomes and living standards in emerging economies will converge with those in the OECD. Today, per capita GDP in countries like China, India, Indonesia, South Africa, Brazil, Mexico, and Turkey is just a fraction of that in the United States. After 50 years of rapid growth and shifting wealth, the emerging countries have drastically reduced the income gap with the United States. Richer OECD countries like France, Italy, Spain, Ireland, Greece will see their per capita income fall when compared with the US. None of these OECD projections are set in stone. Improving public finances and implementing bold structural reforms can boost long-term growth and living standards in advanced and emerging economies alike.